أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين. So tonight we're going to talk about the concept of comparative research and analysis and how the Quran, as we talked about in the last two nights, demonstrates its authority and its capacity as a resource. Because if you don't know the evidence and somebody says, yeah, but the Bible says, and the Bible was there long before Muhammad, and so Muhammad just some illiterate guy in the desert saying stuff randomly, and we've had in the Bible and Christianity and Judaism all these ideas, who is he to differ? You see? But if you have the evidence, then you can say, I'll tell you who he is to differ. But are you that person? And that's why we're talking. نزل عليك الكتاب بالحق مصدقا لما بين يديه وأنزل التوراة والإنجيل. We have sent down this message with the truth as a confirmation of previous scriptures that were sent to previous prophets. And we revealed the Torah, we revealed the gospel. So the Torah was given to Moses, the gospel was given to Jesus. So you will find missionaries with pamphlets already made out. Your Quran here in chapter 3, verse number 3 says that you believe in the Bible, right? Then what are you going to do in that case? It says here, the Torah and the gospel. And they're saying, here's the Bible, the Torah and the gospel. Why aren't you believing in this? Huh? In Surah Al-Maidah, verse number 13, يُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَ عَمَّ مَوَاضِعِهِ وَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. You have to know Maidah. If you don't know Maidah, now they've got you. You see what I'm saying? And so Maidah says they have distorted and changed the scriptures and they forgot a lot of it. You see? And that comes up in Surah An-Nisa, Surah Al-Baqarah, and Surah Al-Ma'idah. So it is very well documented in the Quran that their scriptures have changed over time. Guess what agrees with that? All archaeological science and all of their own. If you go to Encyclopedia Britannica and you look up what mainstream historians and anthropologists and archaeologists say about who wrote what in the Bible, they will tell you, we don't really know, and this is a lot of problems and where that came from and what time it was written and what language it was translated from and so forth. Did Jesus speak Greek? Jesus was a Greek guy. No. Guess what? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all of those things referencing Jesus' teachings in his life, in what language? It's in Greek. He spoke Aramaic. According to who? According to all historians, Christian, Jew, Muslim, everyone. Right? So if the scriptural reference they have is in Greek and Jesus was speaking in Aramaic, don't we have a disparage right here? You see? So we need a reference point. So even with that, we don't just say all Jews and Christians are misguided, the Bible is false. You can't say that. Why? Because Allah told you they are Ahl al-Kitab, people with scriptures. الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابِ. And the Quran tells us to ask Ahl al-Kitab what they have with them. You see, which is meaning they still have lots of the scripture is correct. It is still intact. Just some of it has been distorted and some of it has been lost, right? And so the Quran is coming down to clarify that. For this reason, in the early commentaries from Abdullah ibn Abbas himself, when he first met convert Christians, he used statements they would say about their gospel to interpret things about Jesus. And he would write that in his commentary. Ibn Kathir perhaps is the most common commentary in every Muslim household. Ibn Kathir has Isra'iliyat Kathira. Isra'iliyat is a phrase meaning Christian and Jewish commentaries from their scriptures on the Quran. Ibn Kathir put that in there. Why? Because the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ never prohibited doing that. It just said, make sure you know the reference point in order to verify. So the Quran and the Sunnah tell us that أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق مصدقا لما بين يديه من الكتاب ومهيمنا عليه. We have revealed you this book with the truth as a confirmation of previous scriptures, and this book serves as the authoritative reference point. Why? Because of the last 2 days we talked, the Quran has been proven to have the facts that are now proven with science that this is what actually happened, whereas the Bible was having mistaken reference points of what happened before. And there is nothing that has been found in the Quran that is somehow incorrect or mistaken. Actually, the times they tried to do that, which we'll talk about later when we talk about scientific facts, they also had the slam dunk. Your Quran is saying that the sun is in an orbit. And so all the scientists were in agreement for so long, until the 1970s, okay? Until Stephen Hawking said, no, according to my calculations, the sun and the Milky Way is in the center of the solar system going around the Milky Way circular. So the sun is what? In an orbit. But see, they thought they were slam dunking on us when they said the sun is still, right? Your Quran is saying the sun is orbiting. And then later it came. We have many, many, many examples of this, right? Again, coming to an illiterate man in the middle of the desert who has no knowledge of science. And even if he had all the knowledge of the science in the world, nobody would have known these things anyways. So let's take one story to understand that there is some serious differences and there is some serious issues to be solved. We were sitting in a youth group and I was asking the teenage Muslims who are born and raised Muslim, all of them. And I asked them what kind of a being was Iblis. And they all said, what? An angel. This is a Christian and a Jewish belief. The Quran is very clear. كَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَفَسَقَ عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِ. You're supposed to be reading this every Friday, okay? It's in Surah Al-Kahf. You see what I'm saying? But if we're just reading, we don't know what we're reading, and we're not talking about it, we're not studying it, we're not taking beliefs from it, then we might find ourselves going along with the general mentality of our environment. So those of you who are thinking parenting is just simply tell them that everything's haram, we believe right, we're right, those are kuffar, I'm telling you right now, we are losing the game with this thought process. It takes a whole lot more hands-on discussions, and you yourself will need to become vulnerable. You see, you grew up in a society where everybody's Muslim, everything's Muslim, we know this is the truth. Now you are in a society very different. Now you're going to have to become a knowledge seeker. You're going to be some talib ilm, right? Every Muslim here has to be a carrier of the risala, right? Because these people are mostly ignorant of Islam. And so it's important for us to look at the story of Adam and Iblis and what happened. So the story that God commanded the angels and Iblis, the jinn, to bow down in respect to the honor of Adam is not anywhere in the Bible. It's not there. The story of Adam and Eve is Adam was created, Eve was created, they were told not to go to the tree. All the rest of the story is there. But the story of bow down in honor and respect to Adam is not there. You do find that this story is actually written in Jewish and Christian writings in different scriptures and different references that they have. And you know what they write? All of them say is that God created Adam in his image. And that God created, and for that reason, listen to what they wrote in their books. The angels, the reason why they were bowing down is because they thought Adam was God. And they was worshiping him. And guess what? In their tradition, God did not go against them. He didn't rebuke them for that. That's the Christian understanding. Because the Christians are saying Adam is the precursor to Jesus, who will be God in the flesh. And you see, they have their own beliefs they have, right? And so the Jewish tradition is saying, yeah, it was that Adam was telling all of them to bow down, and then Iblis was saying, I don't have to bow down because I came before him. Similar, right? So you have different ideas. The Quran is clear that the angel do not have choice. Angels do not make decisions on their own. They were given a responsibility. They don't moralize it. They don't philosophize, what should I do? I feel like I don't want to do, and all of that. That's a human behavior. So according to Islam and Judaism, that is correct. Christians are in complete difference with this. All Christianity, every single sect says the angels can lose their way. They can be misguided and they can fall. And Iblis fell, right? And so the Jews justify Iblis's behavior in that Iblis would become someone who would challenge human beings and test them in their faith. And that's his job, that God wanted him to do, right? Because he stood out challenging this issue. So we know that the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us that the jinns are created from fire, and the angels are created from light, and the human from the earth. According to Jews, they have some Jews that are saying that angels are created from fire, and some are created from ice. And the Christians are saying that they're all created from fire. So different beliefs here. We're seeing very distinct beliefs coming from these traditions. So the Quran is, now again, if you're Muhammad and you're supposed to be some false prophet, right? You're going to be very careful before you start presenting things that can be proven wrong, because you know you're making stuff up. You see what I'm saying? The one argument that they're making is Muhammad just, heard from somebody and said everything, but there are so many things that differ with both of them. One differs with one and agrees with the other, and one agrees with that and not the other. And yet the Prophet ﷺ never narrated to be sitting with and having conversations with these people. And if he had, those people would not have been speaking Arabic to him, because there was no reference of Bibles in Arabic according to the Bible scholars until 100 some odd years after Muhammad, as a response to try to convert Arabs on a large scale to the Christian teachings. So we have to have a basis, whether it comes from the theological differences or whether it comes from the scientific evidence. Because one thing that I'm seeing our college crowd is losing their way completely, because atheism is being indoctrinated into them by middle school. My son was telling me how they were teaching mythology in 9th grade literature. And they were teaching about mythologies of the world. And they put Greek, Zeus and Hercules and all of that. And then they said these are the mythologies of Jews and Christians and Muslims. As though that's all Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. You see? So this is coming to them from that mindset. You see what I'm saying? And so then in college it's even highly much more emphasized, because then everybody's going into a college and acting like smart animals in the dorms and the sororities and the fraternities. You see? And so we have to have both the theological clarity of explaining the differences and the why, and what our evidence is, and bringing the scientific facts that support us historically and modern in order to present this message. It's not just a matter of our beliefs make sense and yours don't, and we're right and you're wrong. Nobody's going to go for this type of thought process. This is just people's opinions versus people's opinions. We have to become solid in our capacity to preserve and promote Islam to the world, because if we don't, then we'll have failed, and on the day of judgment, each one's going to ask. Allah is going to ask, He send the angel, I got you in this place where all these people were, where there was all kinds of opportunity for you to gain greatness for Islam. And what did you do? He said, I made a lot of money. And my kids went to the greatest college, they got PhD and this and that and the other. So we ask Allah to reaffirm our hearts on the straight path of the Holy Quran, and to give us al-hujjat al-baligha, that the Quran will be approved for us and not against us on the day of judgment. Jazakumullah khairan.